You're listening to Retail Soundbites.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kantar Retail Soundbites podcast for the week of August 11th. I'm Barry Thomas, our senior global thought leader, serving clients on global commerce, marketing, and future tense topics. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us on every show is my pod partner, Rachel Dalton.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Dalton, head of Retail Insights for the Americas here at Kantar. Our podcast is intended to share knowledge and insights on both North America and international retail and restaurant verticals. We kick off each podcast with a news and notes section to share innovative and impactful stories from the past 2 weeks. And then we introduce our Kantar experts or guest speakers to share insights on critical topics in commerce today. Today, we are very excited to welcome Brian King, Chief Customer Officer at RoC Skincare. But first, back over to you, Barry, to officially kick us off with news and notes.
Glad to do it, Rachel. Let's just take a whistle stop with a little vacation activity I had. I think you had as well. I'll just be very brief. I was down in my hometown of Jacksonville, Florida, often referred to, Rachel, as Jack's Vegas, the Vegas of Florida.
Very nice, Barry. Sounds like a fun place.
It was. So I took 2 weeks off. I spent time down there, Leslie and I, with a lot of our old friends and helping our parents with a lot of different activities, as you can imagine. They're in the mid-'80s and playing a lot of golf with pals. It was just fantastic. Ended up getting a second spot down there. We've always wanted a second home down there just to help with our parents and sort of a hub there. So made that happen. So that was fantastic. And then finished up my vacation period up in North Georgia, the Blue Ridge Mountains, where we saw our good friends Brian and Sherry, and a lot of golfing up there in the mountains. Rachel, pretty cool. And then did some kayaking, which was really neat, in like these remote areas, going through these like caverns and mountains. I think you'd have loved it. It was super cool. It was kind of cold up there. It was nice.
Oh, amazing. That sounds awesome. Well, Jacksonville, I've been in Jacksonville, but many, many years ago. And, my dad was stationed there in the Navy many years ago and always said it was his one of his favorite places that he's been to. So huge fans up here in Connecticut of Jacksonville, and super psyched for your new home. It's beautiful. You showed me pictures. It's really incredible.
Well,
really
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You'll welcome and a free stay, Rachel.
Oh, well, definitely taking you up on that one. And I was away too, Barry. We were both on vacation, I think, at the same time, back half of July, early August. I was in Hawaii. So I was on the island of Oahu. My brother and sister-in-law and nieces live there. And so we had some great time with them. And we had a car and we traveled all around the island, visited the North Shore and the East Side, and, of course, Honolulu and downtown Waikiki, and did some amazing hikes and great swimming. My kids and my husband are surfers, so like the best place to be to surf. We did a snorkeling trip. We stayed at this awesome cottage on the beach. It was incredible. It was great. And my kids' first like really big plane ride, and they actually did well. They had their movies, and now I know I can pretty much travel anywhere. We did the 11-hour direct from New York to Honolulu, so it all worked great. So we had an awesome time. Really fun.
What a vacation. I mean, gosh, nobody's going to beat that vacation. Nobody. I mean, Hawaii, doing all that, the surfing. I know your kids are into that with your husband, so I think that's rocking. Awesome. And now it's back to school, Rachel. I just want to tell you, here in Atlanta, Georgia, it is the school buses are going. Kids are back to school. It's a little bit of shock. Like if you talk to these kids, they're kind of like, "Whoa, back to." So when do you go back to school up there, and are you ready?
Yeah, I wish we had another week or two of summer. The kids start the 26th, so they have 2 weeks from today, or 2 weeks, about 2 weeks away. And my husband's a teacher, so he goes back next Monday for the kind of in professional development days, they call them, before the students come back. So it's coming up, but there's also a number of schools that don't go back till after Labor Day. So they're the lucky ones, I guess, to get a little extra time. But yeah, it's around the corner.
No doubt. Well, I think it'll be good. Everybody's ready for fall, Rachel, right?
Yeah. Getting back into routines and things will be good as well.
All right. 6-pack of news and notes. I'm just going to come at us with this food dive article. I just think this is like material news for all food and beverage brands. And more states are banning soda and essentially just junk food purchases from SNAP benefits. The Trump administration has approved another request from 6 additional states. And so food assistance will not be, applied to buying soda, candy, other sugary snacks and beverages. And so you're kind of up to 12 states now that are banning those food and beverages. And that's kind of a really big deal because the numerator data, our sister company is showing that nearly, think about it, Rachel, nearly a quarter of spending in consumer packaged foods, and that would probably be food and beverages, is really subsidized by SNAP, and so that's kind of going away. So I think it's just a monumental structural change. And again, the bigger headline is modern health. So what do you think about that, Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought for years that there's not enough choice if you want to eat really well and healthy with great ingredients, and so I'm supportive of the overall movement. I question sometimes the restrictions because it makes people not be able to choose. At the same time, it's better for them, but I'm always about, being able to choose. So it's a good thing overall, I think, in terms of we want to be healthier and have a healthier country and healthier food supply. So that part I applaud. I do think it's going to be tough, I mean, for CPG brands, especially with, I think, state by state, there's differences in what's banned via SNAP and what isn't, and I think that probably makes it more difficult to manage, your inventory and your planning processes. But the health movement is a good one. It feels complicated to me as it's a state by state decision.
It is, and so you got the government banning things, all towards humans being healthier, and then at the same time, all these consumers, 70 million walking around with those Yuka apps and
Yeah.
telling you what to buy and not to buy. I just think the barcode matters more and more. Subsequently, the ingredient list. But anyway, big deal.
Yeah. So for me, Barry, my first piece of news is out of CNBC, and it's on the topic of generative AI and, AI companies, just partnerships. So the article specifically is about partnerships between Gen AI companies and online payment companies like PayPal, for example. And it talks about how these partnerships are set to really massively impact e-commerce. So this one in particular references Perplexity, which is the Gen AI search engine, and its deal with PayPal, which essentially enables shoppers to make purchases for things like concert tickets and travel. So far, could be as expand in the future, but they can make these purchases directly in the chat on Perplexity, and then the payment itself is actually completed within the chat by PayPal or Venmo, for example. And we also had heard about the integrated shopping assistant coming to ChatGPT with partners like Shopify. So consumers can theoretically complete purchases also within ChatGPT. Merchants would pay a commission then to OpenAI, as an example. So there's a lot happening in this space. The article discusses a future in which the AI personal assistant is the marketplace, in fact, the marketplace itself. And that completely has the power, as we know, to transform online shopping and e-commerce. If you have Gen AI platforms like Perplexity, ChatGPT, and others become that first destination via search to discover and compare products, they can easily advance into marketplaces for all types of commerce, which will change the channel structure of e-commerce as we see it.
You're totally right. There's different estimates. I mean, there's already estimates now from several investment groups saying that at least 25% of e-commerce over the next few years goes agentic. Whoa. I mean, that's just, e-commerce. And the agentic web is here. We're writing so much content on this. There's a lot of interest, as you know, Rachel. Also impacts retail media networks. Kind of wrote an article about that. That's definitely changing. So I just think it's a fascinating time. And Amazon, Walmart, they all have different strategies, open versus closed, et cetera. All right, Rachel, this is kind of big news. This came from the Financial Times, and restaurant chains are feeling the pinch as U.S. consumers tighten their belts. Listen to this, Rachel. Americans ate 1 billion fewer restaurant meals in Q1
That's massive.
compared.
Yeah.
What, right? I mean, like 1 billion less in Q1 versus last year. I think it's the first time that's ever happened, like in this country. So as food at home costs, grow more slowly than food away from home, which is just skyrocketed. This is certainly hurting restaurants, but it's helping certain, CPGs for sure, like the Reynolds Consumer Products Company. They're all into convenience-driven home cooking. and taking your lunch with you to work when you work, let's say 3 or 2 days a week at the office. And others, retailers and CPGs are just seeing this as a moment for meal kits, ready to cook formats, kitchen staples. It all goes back to what we always say: the fastest growth channel in the world, without question. No one can deny this, is the home. We just spend more time there, and there's just more meals being consumed there. And this is really impacting QSR restaurants. The low income consumer has left the channel. I just think there's a structural change with QSRs. They're not really built for the new world we're in. And value really is the primary sort of driver of just about every dining decision. And you just kind of have to look at value meals as survival. If you don't really have a value meal platform, it's going to be difficult. McDonald's has mentioned this in their latest, earnings call, where they're really looking to completely revamp everyday value. They kind of have to if you want to build consistency. So structural change with restaurants, and I wonder what you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a massive opportunity, a bigger one that's being taken advantage of from food manufacturers today. Food, it's just overall anyone in the food space. There's so much more here. Like, you're out and about, I'm out and about. I see a lot of prepared options and kind of grab and go, and supporting people to make more food at home and meal prep options and all of these things. But it could really be taken to that next level to make it even more convenient, to provide even more options, to have more transparency in ingredients, calorie counts. Like, there's so many more things companies can be doing here. I think it's a huge opportunity. And that number that you gave on restaurants is just massive, and just showcases that at home opportunity in an even bigger way.
The home.
Yeah. So next for me, Barry, is it's an article out of Modern Retail written by Melissa Daniels. We've had her on our podcast before, and it caught my eye because it talked about brand sampling programs, and gave some examples of some winning sampling programs, particularly during the back to school season. And in the article, she referenced a brand called Miles, which is a tween targeted deodorant brand. It's only like 4 years old, and it talked about how, what was important for them is winning over consumers with the distinctive scents that it has developed. That's what drives sales, and that is what sampling enables. And Miles this year started sampling 30% more products versus last year. The article also pointed to the fact that back to school, as we know, it's the perfect time to sample because consumers are in the mindset for this fresh start, new year. They're more apt to want to try things. And Miles, this company, also knows that the mini sample versions of its products also sell as individual products. Consumers use them to drop in gym bags or, for other on-the-go reasons. So that was one example. That article talked about Instacarts, how they're giving away Orgain kids protein shakes, Mott's applesauce. Like, those are the perfect back to school. Your child's practically going to miss the bus, but you need to give them something quick and healthy. So, and Liquid IV, they're sampling a big product, of course, on Prime Day, via a company called Pro Mobile, and they're using a customized Rivian to sample the product, which is pretty cool. It talked about That's It bars, which are great products. They've been sampling since when they started in 2012. Through farmers markets and allergen-free groups. They're looking to give away 10 million samples this year. And they talk about long-term payout versus short-term, which is clear. Obviously, sampling, especially with certain products, is expensive, but it does prove successful in the long term for many brands. And these were just some examples that the article talked about.
I mean, don't you think, Rachel, back to school is just like you always see it with brands and sampling kits? It's on college campuses. They'll partner with certain public schools. Could be breakfast if it's a Chick-fil-A, et cetera. It's just like, it feels like that's a major trigger seasonally for sampling.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It absolutely is.
All right, my last sort of story here is coming from myself, and I wrote a little blog on retail medias. I just think, Rachel, goodness, I mean, there's just so much content written on retail media networks, but so rarely from like somebody who matters. The shopper. What about the shopper? Is the shopper just ready for lots more media and messages? Maybe not so much. And so I just think the gold rush to capture ad dollars is fantastic, and it certainly can help brands and retailers too. But you have to be shopper centric. And I think when I was with Costco recently, they just seem to have a real voice for what's needed here, and they're taking a very prudent approach along with some others. But all the excitement around targeting data and margins, I just think we've lost sight of that. So what we do know, and this blog sort of points it out, is what shoppers want is they want help, not necessarily ad hype. And so there's various studies showing that the majority of shoppers say retail media should help them discover new products, should help them save time, not just push branded promotions. And these ads have to be contextually relevant and just helpful. Otherwise, it's just noise and it's not great for the entire shopper experience, especially repetitive ads. Man, that's a major turnoff for all the data points. So I just think CPG marketers have to kind of certainly rethink their creative briefs for retail media networks. And we all know there's sort of recycling the national TV ad or that social spot on Instagram. That's just not necessarily going to work in the retail context. And you really want to provide the shopper with essentially like decision aids, solution building, category education. Two of the best practices, according to many different studies, would be Unilever and Mondelez. What they're doing with piloting shopper how-to content and AI personalized snack pairings on-site and off-site with retail media networks is just sort of best practice. So there you go. I just feel like we don't hear enough about what do these shoppers want with retail media.
Yeah, it's very true. And it is about authenticity, it's about relevance, it's about being in that right exact moment and being really helpful. And also helping you discover a product that really could fit for you that you may not have known about otherwise. So that relevancy is huge. Barry, we're doing a B2B benchmarking study on retail media networks. It's the brand and retailer conversation, but we're going to have a level brought in of the shopper and what the shopper thinks as well. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll be able to share out some of those interesting data points in the upcoming weeks.
That'll be big.
So last for me, Barry, out of Wall Street Journal, is an article on Warby Parker, which is the D2C turned omni-channel eyewear company. I've bought glasses from them. I think they're pretty cool. They've been able to keep the prices of the glasses, their affordable glasses, at $95 since 2010. And that's when many other D2C brands have had to raise prices. Many others have had to raise prices since. Warby Parker maintains the price of its core most affordable pairs by raising prices on its more premium glasses and lenses, as well as via the progressive lenses it offers to older consumers, which is one of their core targets. They also own 2 optical labs in the U.S., and they run their own stores and online distribution to give it more just control of overall costs. It's also moving some of its production from China. It has lost some profit due to tariffs, but still retains a pretty high adjusted gross margin. And the article pointed to the fact that 60% of its portfolio today is made up of these affordable $95 glass pairs. But despite this, Warby Parker's been able to increase average revenue per customer since it went public back in 2021. It says that it may need to move up from the $95 price point at some point in the future, but that it will do its best to maintain it as long as possible. So I thought that was just really interesting, a company that has diversified enough and is still able to kind of maintain that core, and they continue to have success.
They do. I'm a new customer. I was in Warby Parker up here in Cobb County, and I would say versus this older, established, larger legacy optical brand I was going to, it was much more convenient. It was much more personalized, far more digital. I would say it was at least half as much and just faster. So like every touch point of Warby was vastly superior to this big legacy brand that's still kind of close to a mall. And I just, how can they not continue to have success with the price point and just the overall shopper journey, right, Rachel?
Yeah, totally. All right, Barry. Well, I am very excited to welcome Brian King to our podcast. You and I met Brian, I think, 2 NACDSs ago. So we've been connected on LinkedIn, and he graciously agreed to join us. And Brian brings over 30 years of sales and customer development experience with him, having built his career across major CPG companies, including a distinguished 21-year tenure at Colgate-Palmolive, where he rose to Vice President of U.S. Customer Development, overseeing $3 billion in revenue. Brian's experience spans retailer relationships with major players like Walmart, Kroger, Costco, and Amazon, global customer development strategy across more than 200 countries, and leadership roles in both food and personal care categories. Today, Brian serves as Chief Customer Officer at RoC Skincare, where he's applying his wealth of experience to help grow a challenger brand in the highly competitive skincare market. At RoC, he's part of the executive team driving sales efforts for this private equity-backed company as it competes against some of the industry's largest players. Brian's unique perspective combines the strategic insights gained from working within major CPG corporations with the agility and innovation required to build a challenger brand in today's dynamic retail environment. So welcome to our podcast, Brian. We're really happy to have you on.
Well, hi, Rachel, and hi, Barry, and thanks for having me. It's good to be with you guys.
Brian, we thought we'd kick off with a question just on your career overall, and wondered if you can talk to us a little bit more about what it's like to move from a long career in a big CPG organization to a small private equity company.
Yeah, well, I like the 30 plus years experience because it's really 35, and what that means is decades, which means a lot, I guess. And look, I was really fortunate to work for some of the biggest and best. I came out of college and worked for Kraft General Foods for a few years. I was selling cottage cheese and ice cream. And then I went to Quaker State Motor Oil, and I sold motor oil literally to change the oil in your car before going to Colgate Palmolive, which has got many, many categories. And again, I spent a long time there. I've moved to 9 different states, been to 40 different countries. So I've seen a lot, and eventually, you've done a lot. And after 30 years or so, I'm used to it. There was plenty of meetings with budget reviews, plenty of S&OP meetings, plenty of alignment meetings and pre-alignment meetings and all that. And eventually, after 30 years, I was like, there's got to be a little bit more. And so, recruiter called like they do, and I was not taking it very seriously. I was busy enough. And they were trying to get me to come to this little company called RoC, which I'd never heard of from a million years ago. And they kept calling and calling. And one day I had a bad day at work, and I said, I'll take the call. It turns out RoC was 10 blocks south of Colgate. Colgate's at 50th and Park Avenue, Manhattan. RoC is 40th and Madison Avenue. I said, I'll go down there. And I really didn't know what private equity was going to be about. And it turned out I had a great meeting with the CEO. And he just talked about values for an hour. Like, we didn't talk about spreadsheets or returns or, all the blood-sucking private equity stuff that you envision when you're a big company. And so here I landed. That was 5 years ago, and what a ride it's been. We've more than doubled the business. We've had 20 consecutive quarters of market share growth. And it's a whole new business. Beauty is really very different. The execution is the same, but beauty is very different. So it's been quite a ride, and I got to tell you, it makes me young again being here. It's really fun being a small startup mentality. I say we're the oldest challenger brand you've ever heard of, but we have a startup mentality. The brand's been around since 1957, believe it or not. Most people don't realize that.
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. And, we do a lot, and Barry, I know, does a ton of work around challenger brands and just what we're seeing globally. And there's so much innovation happening, and challenger brands really making a massive mark. So, wow, what the success that you've explained is huge, and congratulations.
Thank you. Look, it is a great brand. For those who don't know RoC, it's not RoCK, it's RoC is the brand name. And it's actually named after a pharmacy in Paris where we were founded in 1957. Roger Cavallas is the name of the pharmacy, still there today, believe it or not, founded by a pharmacist. So it's like a fun story to tell. We tell a founder story. We're very much founder-like. Our founder, God rest his soul, is dead. But our CEO very much acts like a startup founder mentality.
Well, you're doing a lot right. I mean, 20 quarters of market share growth. I think that's the first time we've ever heard that metric ever, Brian.
Yes, I can tell you, I did not have it in any of those prior 30 years of experience where we had that. And it's good. Look, to be honest with you, we started from a fairly humble place. I remember interviewing and going to, I would go into stores and look at my brands, and then I was like, well, let me see what this other brand is, how it's doing. I remember very specifically being at CVS, and I was looking for the brand. I'm on the shelf. I'm looking around. Like, maybe I don't know the category. I'm looking around. I cannot find the darn thing. I go out. I get on CVS's app. It is in the store. I go back and find it. It's on the bottom quarter of the shelf. And so you have to remember, for 20 some years prior to us having the company, it was owned by Johnson & Johnson. It was a big, big conglomerate, billions of dollars. And we were like a little kind of brand that did not get the love and attention. A great, charmed, beautiful, diamond in the rough brand, but it just get squeezed out by the billion-dollar brands. So it's been, the first years we were coming from nothing. Easy to grow on the early years, to be honest with you. It's much tougher as we, built the business. You have to do it on top of year after year. And fortunately, it's been 5 years of growth.
That's awesome.
Brian, it sounds like a David versus Goliath story. I wonder if you can talk more about how small beauty brands like RoC use the agility that, you referenced to fight the Fortune 500 brands, especially today.
But we definitely have some Fortune 500 mega brands in this space. Procter & Gamble is here. They're pretty good. L'Oreal is in this space. They're pretty impressive. Kenvue, the former J&J, they're here, and it just goes on. And when you open up the trade journals every week, somebody else is launching something new. For us, I think the key, it's been quite refreshing, is focus, right? So I think we're really proud keeping the main thing. And the main thing for RoC is the consumer. And it's our first value is we're consumer obsessed. Our target consumer, we call her Diane. She's a woman generally between the age of 35 and 55, and she's got needs in skincare. So we're able to really focus really aggressively and care for Diane, know more about Diane than anybody else is. So focus is the name of the game. And then we are able, because we're still small, to use a lot of agility. So we move really quick. Every Tuesday, we meet as a leadership meeting. We go through for 3 hours of business soup to nuts. We make decisions. We move. Next Tuesday, you come back. We're going to do it again. So you better make progress on the things we agreed on Tuesday, because we're going to have to report back. So that's an example of what we do. I will show you a real example of agility. My second year here, we were doing a line review with a major retailer. You would all know who they are. And we were showing our new stuff, which was pretty good. And at the time, the retailer said, look, you guys, I trust you. You have a great brand. You really know your science. You know what you're doing. But what I'm looking for is something like in patches. Patches are hot. Have you know acne patches? These things were like red hot at the time. They're still really hot. I said, I want to see if you can do it in the anti-aging space. 2 weeks later, our CMO was back with the buyer showing complete concept. That was February. We launched in November, first ship. So February to November, from idea to concept to creation, we have to prove everything clinically, and then shipping is like a perfect example. We would have never gotten that done of any of those companies I previously worked for.
That's incredible. It reminds me of a story way back when I worked at Playtex. We had a similar situation. There was a competitor at one of our major retailers out before us with a big innovation, and it was all hands on deck until we could come out with something. And it was literally a few months of normally a project that would take at least a year, or if not more. So kind of having that big brand challenger mentality is pretty exciting, because you have the brand behind you, but you have sort of the commitment of the organization to do things like that, to take risks. And so that is such a cool story, Brian.
Yeah, the beauty of being a little, first, the people in this team, we're small, we're super lean, but they're super commercial. So most of our new item meetings, we take our head of R&D with us. I mean, we got a scientist in the room, we got a marketer, we got a sales guy, and we're really telling the whole story. Everybody's working towards the same goal, which is like kind of fun. You're not doing, I don't know the last time I've been in PowerPoint, when you had to build PowerPoint presentation to meet, to get a pre-alignment meeting, to get the alignment meeting, to go to the big meeting, to make a decision or not make a decision to move. Like we don't, I don't even know we have PowerPoint on our software package. It's really not there.
That's great.
Boy.
Brian.
That's awesome.
It makes you jealous, doesn't it?
Well, it's just everything. We're studying so many challenger brands. We're documenting them. It's just they're driving almost 50% of all growth in CPG. It varies by category. Beauty's way up there. I think Elf. You sound a bit like Elf to me, and we've been studying that brand and connecting with them on things. And at the end of the day, what I hear you saying, Brian, is it's a company of entrepreneurs.
That's a great one. Elf is so you're studying a good one, right? We all look at them and say, wow, that is one impressive company. In every which way, they do everything. So we certainly humbly look at them, and if we can steal an idea or two, we're not too bashful to do that.
Brian, wonder if you can talk about just beauty in general and how what you're seeing in terms of beauty purchasing patterns. They're very quickly evolving, particularly the shift between that online discovery and in-store piece post-pandemic. I'd love to hear a little bit more.
Yeah, you're not kidding. I think when I joined the company, it was February of 2020. COVID started 18 days later. That was a good move, I thought. Gee.
Wow.
And I think we were doing roughly 10% of our sales were e-commerce each week. And I'm not talking our own. We have a D2C site, but I'm talking like everything e-commerce. I think last week I was just looking at our sales numbers coming in. We were close to 50% of our sales were online. And so the pandemic certainly accelerated that, right? Without a doubt. So we, needed a route to the consumer. Remember, Ulta stores closed for a while during the pandemic. We had to get a route to the consumer. Oh, we got to get it there through online. And that, necessity is the mother of invention. When your back's up against the wall, it's amazing how quickly you become an e-commerce organization. So today, I would say 100% of our marketing budget is digital, 100%. We are a digital first, I think, company in terms of how we think about product launches, what we're launching, the bundles we're launching, the way we launch them, including if you think about how we put our brand on our packaging. So when we're in social media, it looks a certain way, which you wouldn't think of if you needed to go brick and mortar look, it would look different. So that's how we do it. The consumer, without it, the category has gone online for sure. We sell very light stuff, very 1 ounce, 1.7 ounces of stuff for around $30. So it's e-commerce friendly. And then when you think about some of the other challenges that have gone on during the pandemic, one of our biggest things I've learned in my career in the last 35 years, I spent more in the last 3 years on shrink than I have anywhere. You cannot go to a pharmacy in New York City or anywhere on the West Coast in any big store where our category is not behind glass. So the consumer's going there by default. So she may be, the way our consumer works is she may see something on Instagram, which is a big area where we go, may go to TikTok shop as well, see it there. And then we'll go to Amazon to kind of check it out, check out the reviews and the pricing. Is this for real or not? May even go to our site alone where they're getting a lot of education. And then they finally close the deal at Ulta where there's a beauty advisor there and they can actually talk to somebody live. So that path to purchase is moving all around. Also, the path to purchase is super shortening. There's other people who literally sit at their couch, will stream through, go from TikTok to buy to purchase. It'll be within 60 seconds from awareness to conversion. I mean, that didn't exist 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I don't know how long ago, but it certainly didn't exist back when I started. So like a super interesting category. Beauty is all about the look and feel. And so, but the store and the online have to work together, right? You're gonna be able to feel it, and touch it, and talk to people. So it's all working in conjunction. Everything's got to be super consistent in the way we execute.
Yeah.
That sounds like the winning formula, I think, right, Rachel?
Yeah, omni-channel for sure, because the shopper isn't only in one place anymore. As you said, Brian, they're in multiple touch points and even multiple retailers, not even just going from social to retail. It's a real, it's changed so much, but that number 10% to 50% really is a wow, because I don't think I've ever heard that big of a jump in a 5-year period. So that's huge. I'm curious, like what you think about TikTok Shop and just your social commerce opportunities. Any tips that you have to give our audience how you integrate all of that and how you leverage social in a bigger way?
Well, I'm humble enough to know that my advice, just take it with a grain of salt, add it into the formula. For us, we are playing in TikTok Shop as much as anything. It almost works like home shopping network, right? It amplifies your brand outside of just the purchase, right? So it's just another way to amplify the brand to get it out there. One of the things that you triggered a thought when you said 50% and said that's more than you've heard. That's one of the challenger brands is ingredients for success, right? So if you go back to when I started in the business, these big companies we compete in have huge category management groups. They have big investment in data. I mean, they have all the capabilities in the world, and I had them in my last jobs. Over here, I don't even have a category management group. Don't even have the department. I buy as little data as I can because I want all of our money to go back into the marketing, not into telling me what's happening. I mean, I want them to go in there. But if you think about e-commerce for us, it's democratized the route to the consumer. In the old days, you'd have, say, a 20 or 24-foot planogram. You would have big category captains behind it with big data who worked with the buyer, and they would they could really dictate where small brands went. Even if the buyer wanted them in, it could go on that, like on the bottom, on the low left. Today, they're not there anymore, right? We go on .com, and then we fight it out with using search or whatever means we can. And so, it's been a great advantage for us. So a lot of the walls that used to be there are gone. And so once we kind of got with the flow and started embracing it, it's a big difference for us.
Well, on that note, Brian, what else is working for you, or maybe just other brands you're looking at in terms of innovation practices? Just thinking about omni-channel retailing, online to offline, new formats, D2C, et cetera. Beauty seems to be just leading across all of these areas for sure. And in many cases, we've worked with some challenger brands in beauty that are selling 4 times on TikTok Shop what they are on Amazon. Think about that. Whoa. So you're in I think just a really interesting place of just so much innovation and incubation in terms of CPG. And I'm just curious, what else is working for you? What else has your interest?
Beauty is marketing. I came from big they used to call them commodity brands, and I would be so offended. I don't sell a commodity. And we were chasing end caps and just to get a little lower promotion, get the front of the drug. I don't even want to trade promotion. If I could, I'd get rid of all trade spending. Our media, when we go on media, we can see lifts 300-400 times. I mean, nothing else changes. Just in the store, all around, we'll see these kind of lifts. But for us, it's interesting, Barry, what I was looking at last year, we're looking at our 5-year numbers, and of our growth, say we've doubled the size of the company. I'll just talk domestically for now. Our core, we're selling the same amount of core as we sold 5 years ago. All of our innovation is on top of the core, which is incredible. Usually you churn, you churn out.
Yeah.
And we've had some SKUs that have had to come out, but in general, the core is more than held. So innovation is the name of the game. So our marketing group, our R&D, it's why they're so commercial, are bringing a lot of innovation. It's been a game changer for us. We take much of our inspiration out of prestige beauty, right? These are the brands that are $130, $250, and they do some really unique stuff. They spend a lot of money. They have the money to spend on innovation. We take ideas out of there, some inspiration. We recreate them and make them RoC friendly. Often it's got to have we have to have certain formulas, certain criteria. Our formulas are very high benchmark in our formula, and then we commercialize them. And generally, we try to commercialize them about half, a third, or even a quarter of the price of a prestige item. So we make it available to the masses. So that's where we're getting a lot of our inspiration from. And of course, in this space, K-beauty, Korea is a lot, so our marketing team goes there frequently, takes inspiration, and tries to get in front of innovation as best we can.
Sounds a bit like Elf, and that's definitely working for them. Sounds like it's definitely working for you. Now, I totally hear you on trade promotion. So how are you thinking about just retail media, for example, just for RoC, but then beyond RoC, kind of what's your point of view on a lot of that?
Boy, that's not an area of discussion in the building. Yeah. So look, retail media, I would say, let's step back. What is it? Right? So our retailers are our customers, and we've been working to sell them our goods and get it on shelf. Now they are trying to sell us their media. It's comical, right? You have the same company, and one's trying to sell you something, the other, and it's really super interesting. You just step way back and, well, isn't that interesting? Now, the way we think about it is, so there are, just like any marketing funnel, you have the lower funnel, which is, conversion. So search is the first dollar we spend, and it is, we spend quite aggressively there, and we're trying to win where we can win without paying a fortune, right? So we're moving constantly around, and we play everywhere. The rest of retail media, as you start moving up to DSP, or you move, they're even selling regular old commercial streaming TV now. We take a more it's a kind of a cold-blooded approach, and that is, we take the route to our consumer with the message we need to deliver that can get it done most effectively and with the best ROI. And we don't care who's trying to push their retail media on us, right? So it may be one customer, I can get actually better reach across all customers through the one customer's channel. But we work on this every day. Do we have it figured out? We do not. Do we have tools? We have outside vendors in measuring it, ROI, crazy? Of course we do. I think it is definitely an art and a science, right? What you measure, if you just follow the spreadsheet and you put the money where the spreadsheet says to go, you're in trouble, right? You still have to work all the areas of the funnel. And that's a big debate we have literally weekly on where are we spending? What are we doing? What I do like about retail media, Barry, is you can make decisions today for tomorrow. So we can action now where, the old world, it had to be 90 days out. You had to buy TV media well in advance. And we can turn on and turn off media as we see fit. And when we see something hot, we turn it on. And we see something going cold, we can quickly turn out and pivot. Super interesting. And that makes it so agility is where the name of the game is. You've got to sit together, all those groups, and make those decisions together.
Love it. Let's try to fit two more questions in while we have you, Brian. My last one for me is just some headlines. How are you thinking about tariffs? Is it a material factor now, and how do you see it playing out for the rest of the year for you and maybe the beauty industry?
Not in favor of tariffs, just to be for the record. Super challenging for everybody. I think we've learned enough. They have definitely impacted us. There's no doubt about it. I God bless our operations people. I mean, they quickly moved, and we did everything we can. Inside, we think about, we get glass jars from Asia. You can't really get glass jars from the U.S., either good or so. You can't get a lot of the things that we're sourcing, certain very specific items from the U.S. And then you're not really sure who's going to be what tariff on what country. So where are you going to go? You're going to move from here to there. And so we've actually had to open up a few more options to be agile. So we're playing a little bit for sure pricing. Well, for sure can't say exactly what we're doing, but you can't cover the cost. It's mathematics that you've got to do something. So, and do I think it's going to be more challenging? It's very unpredictable. Even if this morning, I was reading the journal this morning, Lord knows where we are and what's going to happen. So stay light on our feet, move quick. And I think that's another example of where we can be agile. I mean, we had to make very decisions one Tuesday. By Tuesday noon, we made decisions where we're going to make stuff, how we're going to move really, really quickly. We didn't have to go to committee. There was no task force. There was no line. We just moved. And sometimes you just have to go by gut. But if you know the answer, Barry, to what's going to happen, just let me know. Just send me a little note.
Yeah, that won't be coming. Sorry. Rachel, I'll leave the last question to you.
Just to finish us up, Brian, and by way of kind of summarizing, what would you say would be your top 3 sort of coaching tips to help brands, especially like younger brands, challenger brands, rising challenger brands, grow and thrive in the next, several years?
Yeah, I think number 1 is keep the main thing. Don't build a business by a P&L. Build it by what the consumer needs and try to solve those problems, which for us, I can only speak for us, it's working very well. We obsess about her. We obsess about her problems. We obsess about what she's trying to do. So that would be one for sure. I'd say for us, we are asset light. We have an office building and that's about it. So we use agencies, third parties, a lot of subject matter experts. We work hand in hand with them. That brings a lot of knowledge outside, because when you're little, you don't have a ton of ability you don't have all this breadth. So you've got to be able to think fast and learn fast. So these guys are able to bring that stuff in, and we push them really hard. I think the third thing for us, especially because I'm in sales, is you have to make sure you understand what's your value to the retailer. There is not, in my category, a lack of competitors. There's not a lack of brands to come to a retailer. There are plenty of them. So what value are you bringing to that retailer that all the other stuff doesn't bring? There's moisturizers in a jar with hyaluronic acid across every brand. There's all kinds of eye creams out there. So what is it that makes it different that you're going to do for them? So if you can think through those value equations, I think you'll do pretty darn well. That's my experience.
Fantastic. Brian, this has been an awesome conversation. So happy that you joined us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rachel.
Appreciate it, Brian.
We'll talk to you.
All right, Barry. Well, it was so fun to have Brian King on the pod and talk about his experiences at RoC. And here's our top 5 recap. Number 1, Agility drives challenger brand success. RoC Skincare's rapid decision-making and lean structure allow it to outpace larger competitors, launching new products from concept to shelf in months, not years. Number 2, all about consumer obsession, which is key. The team's laser focus on their target consumer persona, Diane, shapes every strategy, ensuring products and messaging directly address her needs and pain points. And number 3, digital transformation accelerates growth. RoC shifted from 10% to about 50% of sales online in the last 5 years, with 100% of its marketing budget now digital, demonstrating the power of e-commerce and social media in beauty.
Number 4, retail media, they are just so focused on ROI, which is, you just love hearing that. And so it's highly disciplined. That is the metric. There's more to it than that, but they're just looking for a return on that investment. And they love the agility with digital media to pivot quickly with the retailers that are providing the ROI. And not every retailer can provide that. And so they made that pretty clear. And then Brian said, point number 5 here is just asset light. That's sort of their business model. And they're relying on agencies and third-party experts and others outside to provide expertise beyond sort of this core, smaller entrepreneurial company. And that does allow them to move just quicker and faster, especially with sourcing strategies, pricing strategies. And it's a big part of helping them with what's happening with global trade and tariffs, and they're navigating that. It's been difficult, but they seem to be in a good place, largely because they just operate like this smaller entrepreneurial company, which is fantastic.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much to Brian King for joining our discussion. We hope you enjoyed our show. And as always, thanks for listening to the Kantar Retail Soundbites podcast.
And a special thank you to Victoria for producing and marketing our podcast, who's getting married next weekend. We're so hyped for her. I mean, what a winner. And thank you all. We will see you in 2 weeks.